How's it going, everybody? I went to Tubbataha Reefs, which is in the middle of the Sulu Sea in the Philippines. And people generally go there to look at schools of fish and at big fish. Now, this is a very well protected area, quite remote from the populated parts of the Philippines. And you can see things like these large schools of barracudas or these schools of these snappers. It's really heartwarming that such a healthy reef fish fauna is thriving in this day and age in Southeast Asia. There are lots of jackfish, massive school of them. It's really interesting to see them school. Interestingly, in this school there were also surgeonfish. They're probably feeding on the feces of these jacks. So, so much reef biology that's really right in front of your eyes. Very interesting that these jackfish also form these swirls. There are sharks around. Almost on every dive you would see sharks. And, they're not shy. They're coming close to you. This is a fantastic place to dive.
This guy, I called his attention to see the tiger shark, but it didn't deter me in the water, yeah.
So what's more interesting, tiger shark or goby?
I think it's tiger shark.
Really? But goby is pretty cool.
Yeah, but if you prefer the small sting, I think it's good as small sting also, yeah.
So how do you get there? You have to fly to Puerto Princesa, and then you take about a 12-hour boat ride, and this is all liveaboard diving. So you live, you sleep, and you eat on the boat, and then you can do up to 4 dives a day. So this was a trip in late June, and the conditions were still very nice, which is somewhat unusual. Now, the coral cover in Tubbataha is excellent, and the corals are very healthy. There's a high diversity of different coral species, and the reef fish diversity and biomass is excellent. So lots of different fish, from the small ones up to sharks, manta rays and whale sharks, which on this trip we didn't see. So on this trip it was our task, Professor Kent Carpenter and mine, to count all the fish species which we could see. And we made a very good effort to look in every crevice and crack. Now, beautiful angelfish here, and again, you can tell from the fish behavior, these fish are generally not very shy. They're not used to spear fishermen. They're just divers there, and actually the majority of the year there's nobody there. So the fish come close to you. It's excellent for any fish watcher. And we saw pygmy seahorse, which is always a treat. Quite a number of rare cryptobenthic reef fish, meaning small fish which hide. And so these are small dartfish here, which are schooling. Here you can see a dartfish has slowed that down, which is escaping. We saw some eels, although strangely eels as well as scorpion fishes are not very abundant in this otherwise so highly biodiverse reef. So I'm not quite sure what the reason for this is. Squirrel and soldierfish were quite abundant in the cracks and crevices, and so many different species of gobies. So it was my pleasure to observe all these small species. This is, of course, a Randall's shrimp goby, which is a goby which you have in these crevices, in these balconies of steep walls, and it's erecting its dorsal fin. This is basically showing off, defending its territory. What a beautiful fish. And this is a goby of the genus Idiota, among the smallest fishes in the ocean. A lot of gobies of the genus Trimmer, of course. So Tubbataha is really known for, its whale sharks and manta rays, but also for the small animals are so abundant and biodiverse here. It was really an excellent week of observing fishes. Here we have another goby of the genus Trimmer, and there were not just small fishes, there were also small invertebrates. Look at this crinoid shrimp. So there's macro even, like everywhere in the Philippines, there are small animals. So many butterfly fish. So this is this backsaddle butterfly fish, very typically that they're traveling in pairs. This is probably a mated male-female pair. These fishes, they are made for life. So highly impressive biodiversity at all spatial scales. Now, this is an interesting observation here. This is a school of small fish which was at home in a crevice, and there was a group hunting them, with a lot of patience. And the small fish are generally not stupid. The small fish noticed, and they were panicking. So we also got to dive the lagoon of the atolls of Tubbataha. So there's a north and a south atoll, meaning there's an inside body, the lagoon, which is enclosed. Now, the visibility in these lagoons was not great, but this is not due to pollution. This is just a physical oceanography, that there's just less water movement to clear out the sediment. And actually the coral cover was quite healthy, and the fish fauna was fascinating and very different on the outside. And then, so both the fish as well as the corals were quite distinct from what you would see on the reef walls, which are generally dived. And it was really quite a treat for a marine biologist. So here, this is upside down jellyfish, which is typically an organism you would find in protected areas and in seagrass areas, because they can't really fight the current when they're being swept away. So quite typical for this habitat. This is a Gobiodon okinawa, which is a goby which before, to my knowledge, had not been sighted in Tubbataha. And there were actually quite a lot of these. So this is usually a rare goby, but in this case, we found probably 10 or 12 in one block of hard coral. And this is quite interesting. This is a urchin clingfish, which normally lives together with sea urchins, but this one was on its own. So it was quite striking, actually, that during the whole trip, I don't think I saw a single sea urchin, which probably is because of the high number of herbivorous fishes. So this view here gives you an impression how the coral cover looks in the lagoon. So there are these very finely branched staghorn corals. So, these are all living coral. It's just a bit murky. And again, this is not pollution. This is the physical oceanography here. This is a small blenny. So, there are small fishes in this lagoon. They're quite rich. And you can see that here, most of the bottom is covered in corals, both hard as well as soft corals. And the coral fauna was quite different from what you would see on the outside. And it's quite striking that we even saw, you will see it in a second, a Napoleon wrasse on the inside of the lagoon. So, a very healthy fish fauna as well. Very interesting to dive this location. Now, there are also very interesting things to see on land or in the air, actually. So one small strip of land of Tubbataha is called the Bird Island, and it's a nesting and roosting area for, I believe, 7 species of seabirds. So this is how tropically low-lying islands should look like in the absence of feral rats, cats and dogs. So, this is such a healthy bird fauna here. These structures were built by the national park people, who are actually doing a great job in Tubbataha. And these structures substitute for some of the trees which were lost during typhoons. And they're really very attractive for the birds to sit and breed on. And this is such a massive bird population here. It's really interesting to drive by, and again, they're not being used to being harassed by humans and their animals. So the birds are really thriving in this location.
Wow!
And this would also be just a great spot for bird watching. to go to Tubbataha. So if you scuba dive and the birdwatch at the same time, this is ideal. Probably the brown boobies were one of the highlights. This is a bird which you only very rarely see in the populated areas of the Philippines. Also many terns, egrets. So the National Park Authority of Tubbataha is doing a great job, and Kent and I were hosted at the Infiniti liveaboard, which also does a great job in providing excellent dive operations. So this was very efficiently organized, and there was a lot of good thought which had gone into the safety of diving. So there was ample crew, and I could tell that there were procedures in place to keep things safe, including that everybody would get a EPIRB, essentially a homing beacon, in case you get lost. So highly recommend this liveaboard. The whole boat was also quite luxurious, excellent food, and look at these views. So I hope you have gotten an impression of what it is like to dive in Tubbataha, with more of a focus on the small fish than on the giants. Beautiful sunsets. I hope you enjoyed my video and you enjoy my videos. You can directly support me with PayPal. There's a link at the bottom. Or if you enjoy my raving, I have a couple of books out. One is called The Lives of Gobies, which unsurprisingly is about this fascinating family of fishes, both marine and freshwater, the gobies. New from this year is Your Brain on Diving, on new aspects of diving physiology, and especially diving physiology of the brain. And coming out within the next couple of weeks, probably 25 future dives together with James Reimer. See you soon.